Of course it's the broke single mom's kid, my mother sneered, chin lifted toward the chandelier. Your son took the diamond necklace from the safe. Try teaching him manners before bringing him into my house. The room went pin-drop quiet. The silverware looked like tiny knives pointing at my boy. My brother folded his arms and added, we saw him near it. My son's eyes shone with that glassy fear kids get when they've been good all day and still end up in trouble. He curled his fingers into the hem of his sweater like it could anchor him to the floor. Hi everyone, my name is Kira Lark, I'm 29. I wasn't born soft, but I learned to go silent when storms roll in. Silence saves oxygen. Silence lets the loud reveal themselves. I scanned the long dining table. White roses, cold crystal, my mother's idea of warmth. The safe in her study had been her pride since Dad remarried. She bragged about it like it was a second spine. Tonight was supposed to be a family dinner. Roast beef, old stories, a toast to togetherness. Instead, togetherness had become a witness stand. Kira, Mom pressed, say something. Or will you just stare at us like you always do? Her lips tugged into that prim smile that used to flatten me when I was little. I didn't, my son whispered, voice thin. I didn't even open the door. Kids lie, my brother said, almost cheerful. They practice on video games. I looked at him, at the way he sat too comfortably inside our mother's approval, at the new watch he hadn't earned. The air smelled of pepper and old grudges. Somewhere in the hall, the grandfather clock coughed up another second. I felt the old heat in my neck, the one that wanted to shout, to throw plates, to claw back every time I'd swallowed words to keep peace. Instead I reached into my tote. A small black drive lay cool in my palm. Our security camera's weekly backup, the one I swap on Sundays, the one I'd brought because I know my mother and because I protect my boy. I set it gently on the linen like a dark stone dropped into still water. The chandelier's light glinted off its edge. My son's breath hitched. No, Mom said, eyes narrowing. What is that? Proof, I said. The drive's tiny indicator blinked alive, a heartbeat in plastic. Across the table, my stepfather, Mr. Perfect Smile, reached for his water and missed the rim. The glass sang a high, nervous note as his hand trembled. And 3 chairs down, the thief exhaled, too sharply, and went very, very still. The sound of the glass rolling on the table sliced through the silence. My stepfather's hand froze halfway to his mouth. For the first time that evening he wasn't smirking. Proof of what? Mom asked, voice sharp but shaky, her fork still balanced midair. I didn't answer. I just looked at my son, his small chest rising too fast, his knuckles white against his lap. Then at my stepfather's cufflink, the same gold tone as the necklace they claimed was missing. The irony almost made me laugh. I slid the flash drive across the table. You might want to plug that into your precious home theater system. Since everyone here loves a good show. My brother scoffed. Oh come on, Kira. You think this? Play it, I said, calm but final. He hesitated. Mom signaled the housekeeper. A few taps later, the screen on the far wall flickered to life. I could hear my heartbeat louder than the TV's hum. The footage was time-stamped from this afternoon. Grainy, black and white, but clear enough. My son was visible in the corner, placing a toy truck on the carpet, humming quietly. Then 30 seconds later, another figure entered the frame, tall, heavy, in a suit. My stepfather. He opened the safe with ease. Entered the code. Removed something small and glittering. Then he pocketed it and closed the door. No hesitation. No confusion. Like it was routine. The room gasped as if the walls had lungs. Mom's fork clattered against her plate. What is this? My stepfather's voice cracked. This isn't. Kira, you've edited this. Do I look like a video editor? I asked quietly. My son was trembling, but I rested a hand on his shoulder. See, sweetheart. I whispered. Truth doesn't need to scream. It just plays. He blinked up at me, tears barely held back. My brother's smirk vanished. My mother's eyes darted between her husband and me, like she was watching her world split in two. And in that fragile silence, the kind that tastes metallic like the edge of justice, my stepfather whispered something only I could hear. Turn it off, please. He said it so quietly that even the chandelier seemed to stop shimmering. Turn it off, please. Mom's gaze darted toward him, confused, desperate for a lie to hang on to. What are you talking about? I didn't move. Neither did my brother. The footage kept looping. My stepfather reaching into the safe again and again, stealing what wasn't his. Every replay stripped another layer of his mask. He slammed his palm on the table. Enough. The TV went black, but the silence that followed was louder than any explosion. My son flinched. The old grandfather clock clicked like a heartbeat nobody wanted to hear. I stood up slowly. You accused a child, I said, voice low but steady. Why child? You let everyone point fingers at him while you sat here wearing guilt like it was perfume. Mom's lips parted. He wouldn't. He did, I cut in. And you helped him by believing the worst about your own grandson before asking a single question. My brother rubbed the back of his neck, unable to meet my eyes. We didn't know. You didn't want to know. My son's hand tugged at mine. Can we go home now, Mom? He whispered. His voice cracked like thin glass. I nodded. Yes, baby. We're done here. As I gathered our things, Mom tried to speak again. Kira, wait. I turned to her, feeling the years of swallowed apologies and unfinished sentences tighten in my chest. You always told me family means loyalty, I said softly. But tonight you proved it means convenience. Her eyes glistened, not with guilt yet but with the fear of losing control. I took one last look around the table, at the empty plates, the ruined roses, the faces that once defined home, and walked out into the cool night. The door clicked shut behind us. My son's small hand tightened around mine as we stepped into the driveway. Then from inside we heard the muffled crash of a glass, followed by my mother's trembling voice. Why did you do it to us? Her voice cracked through the door like a prayer wrapped in disbelief. Why did you do it to us? I didn't wait to hear his answer. My son and I walked toward the car, the cold air washing over us like clean truth. He clutched his toy truck against his chest, the same one from the footage. Proof that innocence can survive even in rooms that smell like betrayal. When I buckled him in, he asked, Will Grandma still hate me? That question hit harder than any accusation. No, I whispered, brushing his hair back. She's just learning who the real thief is. Inside the house, the voices began to rise. My mother's broken, my stepfather's defensive. Through the window I saw him pacing, waving his hands like a man trapped in his own lies. My brother's expression had twisted into something new. Disgust. Maybe for once he saw what I'd seen all these years. I started the car. The headlights spilled across the driveway, catching the reflection of the family crest engraved on the front door. The same crest my mother once said, only the pure deserve to carry. Funny how purity loses its shine when truth walks in. That night I tucked my son into bed and sat alone on the porch with the drive still in my hand. Its tiny light blinked in rhythm with my heartbeat. For years I'd been the quiet daughter, the disappointment, the one who never learned her place. But tonight silence had become my weapon. Around midnight my phone buzzed. It was a message from my brother. He's packing his things. Mom's crying. She said you were right. I stared at the text for a long moment before typing back 2 words. Keep it. I knew he'd understand. The footage, the truth, the peace. Somewhere inside me, a door closed that had been open too long. But I didn't know then. This wasn't the end. Because the next morning my mother showed up at my doorstep, makeup streaked, holding something small and familiar in her trembling hands. The missing diamond necklace. She stood there in her silk robe, the morning sun catching the tears she hadn't yet wiped away. The diamond necklace dangled between her fingers like a confession. I found it in his briefcase, she said softly. Under the tax files. Her voice sounded smaller than I'd ever heard it, like the version of her that existed before pride took over. My son peeked from behind the curtain, eyes wide. I knelt down and whispered, It's okay, sweetheart. Grandma's just returning something that isn't hers. Mom's jaw tightened, but she didn't argue. She stepped forward and placed the necklace on my coffee table, careful, almost reverent, as if setting down the weight of a secret she'd been forced to carry. Kira, she began, I don't know what to say. For starters, I said quietly, you could apologize to him. Her eyes flicked to my son. She opened her mouth, then closed it. For a long moment, the only sound in the room was the faint clink of the diamond sliding against glass. Finally she crouched down. I'm sorry, she whispered. I shouldn't have believed them. I was wrong. My son nodded, confused but forgiving in that innocent way kids are. It's okay, Grandma, he said. You didn't know. That broke her. The strong woman who'd ruled her house like a queen suddenly looked fragile, mortal. He's gone, she muttered, wiping her eyes. Packed and left for a hotel last night. Your brother told me he might file for divorce. I didn't gloat. There was no satisfaction in watching her pain, just a strange kind of peace. Like watching a fire finally burn itself out. She stood up, adjusting her robe. You've always been quiet, she said. I thought that meant weak. But it means something else, doesn't it? Silence doesn't mean surrender, I replied. It just means I choose my timing. She nodded once as if accepting a lesson too late. Then she turned to leave, pausing at the door. He's not taking the house, she said bitterly. I made sure of that. As the door closed, the necklace caught one last glint of light, like truth itself winking before disappearing. I thought that would be the end of it. A quiet chapter closed, truth restored, and peace finally breathing through the walls again. But peace in my family was always borrowed time. 2 days later my brother called. His voice carried that uneasy mix of guilt and curiosity. Kira, you should come by Mom's. She's talking about changing her will. My heart didn't flinch. It only slowed. Because of him? Because of you, he said. She said you proved your worth. The irony stung. All my life I'd been told worth had a price tag. A bigger job, a husband, a family portrait that matched her decor. But now worth was truth. So I went. Mom was in the study, the same room where it all began. The safe door hung open, empty except for a small velvet box, the one she used to keep her wedding ring before Dad died. I'm leaving the estate to be split evenly, she said quietly. No more favoritism. No more guessing who I love most. I didn't respond right away. The air smelled of dust and old perfume, the scent of endings. I didn't come here for money, I finally said. I came to make sure my son grows up knowing his name isn't dirt just because he was born outside your rules. She nodded slowly, her eyes softer than I remembered. You've grown stronger than I ever imagined. Before leaving, I glanced at the security monitor on the desk. The feed was live, recording quietly. You kept the cameras on? I asked. Her lips curved faintly. After what happened, I realized silence doesn't mean safety. Sometimes it's just the absence of proof. I smiled, not mockingly but with the understanding of someone who'd finally been heard. When I walked out, I didn't look back. But that night, my brother texted me again. You might want to watch the news. I turned on the TV and saw my stepfather handcuffed, being escorted out of a jewelry store. Apparently, the necklace wasn't the only thing he'd stolen. The news anchor's voice was calm, detached, the kind reserved for scandals too common to shock anyone else. Local businessman Henry Caldwell arrested for embezzlement and jewelry fraud. But to me, every word hit like thunder wrapped in quiet justice. Mom's husband, the man she once called her second chance at love, stood on the screen with his head bowed, wrists bound, face pale. Cameras flashed around him like fireworks celebrating the truth. My phone lit up with messages. Neighbors, old family friends, even distant cousins, all pretending to be concerned but really starving for gossip. Kira, did you know? Is your mom okay? Guess you were right. I didn't respond. Instead, I muted everything and just watched. My son padded into the room in his pajamas, rubbing his eyes. Mom, is that him? Yes, I said quietly. That's the man who tried to blame you. He frowned. Will he go to jail? Maybe, I said. But what matters is that people finally see him for who he is. He nodded, satisfied in that innocent way only kids can be. Then he whispered, Grandma called me yesterday. She said she misses us. That caught me off guard. Did she? Yeah. She said she's sorry and she's learning. I smiled faintly. So are we. Later that evening I got a call from Mom. Her voice was softer, stripped of its armor. He confessed, she said. Everything. The necklace, the missing funds, even the offshore account. I should have seen it sooner. You saw what you wanted to see, I replied gently. We all do. There was a pause and then she whispered, You were right about silence, Kira. It can protect or it can rot. Her voice broke and before hanging up she said something I'd waited my whole life to hear. I'm proud of you. And as I sat there in the glow of the screen I realized, The real revenge wasn't the exposure. It was the evolution. But there was one final thing left undone. A message I'd been drafting for days. To every person who once laughed at the quiet girl. I read the message aloud one last time before pressing post. To every person who called me weak for staying silent. Thank you. You taught me how to listen so well that when I finally spoke, no one could deny the truth. I attached the headline of the arrest, a still image of my stepfather being escorted away, and a short caption, "Silence isn't weakness. It's precision." Then I hit send. By morning it had gone viral. Not in a wild, scandalous way, but like quiet justice spreading through whispers. Thousands of women commented stories of being blamed, dismissed, or gaslit by the people they trusted most. My notifications filled with strangers saying, "Same." Mom called that afternoon. "You're trending," she said with a shaky laugh. "You've started something." "I didn't start it," I told her. "It was always there. I just pressed play." That evening she invited me and my son to dinner. Not in her mansion but in a small cafe near the lake. No table settings, no chandeliers, just coffee, honesty, and space for air to breathe. When she arrived, she carried a velvet pouch. Inside was the diamond necklace, cleaned, repaired, shining under the soft light. He handed it to me. "I want you to keep it," she said. "Not as inheritance. As reminder." I smiled, closing her hand around it instead. "No, Mom. You keep it. You're the one still learning what it's worth." She nodded, tears slipping quietly down. My son, sipping his hot chocolate, whispered, "Mom, are we okay now?" I looked at him, at her, at the reflection of 3 generations finally breathing the same truth. "We're not perfect," I said. "But we're honest. That's enough." Outside, the lake rippled with late sunlight, scattering tiny diamonds across the water. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small in her presence. I felt free and seen. And as we stood to leave, my son slipped his hand into mine, smiling softly. Justice didn't roar. It whispered,